My wife Corrie and I have returned only last week from 6 weeks walking over 650 kilometres in Slovenia and the Dolomites. I love to walk with Corrie, and in our mid-60s we had partly retired and were eager to walk. We had heard about these great European Caminos and we wanted to go, so we went. We headed for Saint-Jean-Bière-de-Port, a mountain town tucked into the French side of the Pyrenees. 6 weeks and 850 kilometres later, we reached Santiago de Compostela on the other side of Spain. The only injury I suffered was due to my shoes that were too small and causing me lots of pain. I had noticed my toenails changing colour, but I thought these things just happen on a long journey. When we got to our first major town, I saw a podiatrist who was handing out her business card to limping pilgrims. I had been walking for 300 kilometres, and when she removed my 4 toenails in as many seconds, it was like having a new foot. 6 weeks before this, I had a hip replacement and was recovering in a rehabilitation centre. My hip was feeling remarkably good until one day I looked into a mirror to check my progress. This huge mirror was placed at the end of a long hallway, and I imagined it was there so hip replacement people could check their progress. My progress was something different. I was wobbly, I couldn't walk in a straight line, and my arms were swinging in a peculiar fashion. I looked at others and they appeared to be walking well. I saw my surgeon that day, who must have noticed this, as I was clearly out of step with the others. When I brought this up, he suggested we look at it next week and see what else may be happening. But the x-rays gave my new hip a huge thumbs up. I was perplexed by the surgeon's assessment as I walked strangely out the door. "You say your hip is fine?" Corrie asked. "Yes," I said. "Then why do you walk funny?" We both raised our hands in wonder. During the week, I ignored the mirror because it was messing with my mind. Then came the day. I was feeling good, the mirror images faded. What was the problem if I walked a little strange? In this upbeat mood, I danced into the office, ready for him to do other non-hip tests on me. He twisted my wrist in a range of directions, asked me to hold out my arm that he stared at intently, and then told me to go for a little walk. A little walk? I hadn't been for a little walk in a long time. Having seen the results, he said, "I have some bad news." But I didn't care if I walked a little slower, and not all hip-hops turned out perfectly anyway. "Will, you have Parkinson's." I was so relieved. That means my hip is okay? How happy was I? And Parkinson's won't stop me from walking, right? Well, hopefully, but within 10 years your walking would have deteriorated a lot, and you'll most likely be in a wheelchair. I then read about Parkinson's. We start to mumble. We spill saliva because our throats can't easily swallow it. Our body flails around, sometimes on the ground. We may become rigid. We start to freeze, and then we become afraid to walk in case we trip. So it can affect walking. And then there's the tremor. When people asked me how I felt, I was unsure, so I responded with bent humour. "Well, it's picking on me," I said, "it's leaving some other poor bastard alone." I had no choice, so with this sign, "Walking with Parkinson's," we took him with us. I introduced him to hundreds of people wanting to know more about him so they could gain some understanding. Life was difficult, the woman said, having to help my husband in so many ways, and sad now he is gone. But it's great to see that you are doing what we couldn't, and it's helped, and I'll be keen to follow your adventures. Another, it's hard to be on a walker at 60, but to see you at 67 without one helps me a lot. And you can see how I'm already keeping up with you. And another, thanks for taking away the mystery. My first Parkinson's issue was a mystery. It was to do with my left arm. It would not swing, so I talked to it and told it it had forgotten how to, because I had changed, and we need to work together now. Not long after, it was swinging by itself. Then 100 kilometres later, I started leaning to my right, and I don't mean politically. Then I crossed the road, so my left leg was on the lower side, and my body found it hard to lean right. I did this until it straightened. Back home, I do PD neuro exercises, which helped me greatly, and walked at 7 kilometres an hour. However, as my blood pressure gets lower, it won't allow this anymore, and cut it to 6. Now, because of this speed, I had to be acutely aware of my surroundings by observing closely, which prepared me for potential falls. Awareness is crucial because balance often becomes a real issue with PD. So I obey my balance, and it doesn't like slowness. I compare it to rolling a ball. If you roll it quickly, it will go in a fairly straight line. If you roll it slowly, it will wobble. On our long walks, I take Nordic walking poles and use them together going uphill, which strengthens my arms and gives my legs a rest. When going downhill, I jump firmly from rock to rock, and if I hit a loose area, my other foot is already on the ground, and I'll have the poles out in front of me to help prevent a fall. Then on the flat, I use regular Nordic walking techniques. There's another fall that we need to prevent, and that is cognitive decline. While older people do have cognition restraints, it is more severe in those with Parkinson's. It was around that time that I had an urge to write poetry. I wondered if it was because of the Parkinson's or the poetry book someone had lent me, The Ode Less Travelled, with all styles of poems. But it was the sonnets that grabbed my attention, because I had to think, and that is what my brain needed. So I wrote poems that to me were enjoyable, useful, and most of all, difficult. A close friend and I have also started a poetry group, the Nearly Dead Poet Society, where I publish a different style of poem for each newsletter, as well as a sonnet or two. I was busy, so our 700-kilometre France adventure came around quickly. I started to lean left in France, but thought little of my politics, as France is known for its socialist tendencies. But seriously, I tried the old walking on a slope trick, and it worked. But then my left foot was making it unbearable to walk, so I saw a specialist when I returned home. He said the cartilage in my foot had degenerated considerably and asked me to come back when I couldn't walk anymore. So I saw an osteopath who treated me with laser and asked me to come back when your pain does. And I haven't been back since. It's great to know that not everything is related to Parkinson's, though much is. In Switzerland, I found that my low blood pressure was greatly affected by the steep Swiss hills and mountains, where my blood pressure would become very low and I would get dizzy and close to falling. So I slowed when climbing, took salt tablets and drank heaps of water. For me, it was also Parkinson's related because most medications will lower your blood pressure. My voice became quiet, so I started speech therapy prior to our walk in Italy. And because Italians are impervious to noise, or so I'd heard, it was a great place to practice. My vocal cords were unhappy, for they were closed when they were supposed to be open, and open when they were supposed to be closed. After therapy, my voice was cured. I had avoided Botox by singing it back to health. These exercises can also help the expressionless face that many often have. I sometimes say to friends with Parkinson's, "You look like you have PD." This was meant to be helpful, and if it shocks them and they want to change, then maybe one of my external solutions may be a start. It's the Maori haka, of which there are many versions. With my eyes nearly out of their sockets, I'll chant a part of one. Kamati, kamati, kia ora, kia ora. Ah! You can see maybe how the face opens up, and it can be a bit of fun, or not. Last year, while walking 650 kilometres in Germany, I was struggling with back pain due to my conscription into the Vietnam War. Frustration struck, but I had been working on this difficult feeling for some time. Many symptoms of PD are about frustration, and changes I made are often because of that. Otherwise, I simply accept it for what it is and make allowances. Talking of frustration, he is still with me, and I'm still introducing him to others. He has offered me a challenge, and I have taken it. In a recent challenge only last year, we completed a full walking marathon. In 1 month's time, we will complete our second one. And I assure you, we are not athletes. I take them on because I want my old age to be fulfilling, and I could not be more content. Well, maybe a little. Parkinson's is hard work. It can be exhausting, frustrating, and time-consuming, but it can also be rewarding. 13 years ago, I was told that life with Parkinson's would be tough, and it has been. I was also told it would not be rewarding, and it has been. Despite the loss of many neurons that exist mainly to make me feel good, I feel good anyway. To me, it's proof, though anecdotal, that what I choose to do can work, despite those specialised neurons leaving me en masse. It is not scientific, but for me it works. It is not knowledge that we will get from a text, but for me, it is who I am and what I am capable of, especially when I'm being challenged. The reason I wanted to tell this story is so that you know that Parkinson's disease is not the end. Thank you.